which is election of chair. Can I have nominations for chair, please? Is that seconded?
Yes, Chair.
Okay. Are there any other nominations? I assume there are no other nominations. Therefore, Councillor Thomas, would you like to take the chair, please? Thank you.
OK, wel, bore da, a croeso I cyfarfod bore yma yn Bryn Bigan yn Cyngor y Sir. Obviously, welcome this morning to the licensing meeting today on Tuesday, the 21st of May, here in County Hall at Esk, and thanks for your ongoing support. We move now then to item 2 on the agenda, which is the appointment of a vice chair. Are there any nominations? Okay, is there a seconder? Sue Riley, thanks. So, would you like to Jane join? Okay.
Excuse me, Chair, but we can't hear anything at home other than what you're saying.
Right.
We couldn't hear Sue Riley being nominated then.
Oh, right. I think she was fairly quiet, I think. Yeah.
Chair,
yeah.
All due respects, when your nomination went through as well, we never heard your response either, or your nomination. So I think there must be a sound issue relaying back to us.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, for mine, it was obviously Tony Eason proposed me. Yeah. And then Dale, did you second?
I did. Can you hear me, Simon?
I can hear you now. I don't really. I'm not that bothered about what happened there. It's just that we're not getting no feedback on the basis of that.
Can you hear me, Simon?
I can.
Right.
Yeah, I think if people can speak into the microphone, and not everybody's got such a ringing voice as mine, I'm afraid. But when you speak, though, if you're close to the microphone and obviously speak into it, then obviously everybody can hear. But then for the vice chair, it was proposed by Tony Eason and then seconded by Sue Riley. Okay, if there are any sound problems now, then obviously please come back in. Item 3 on the agenda. Apologies for absence.
No apologies, Chair, but I believe Councillor Watts might join the meeting late.
Right, okay, thank you. 4.
Excuse me, Chair.
Yes.
I was just going to say, just to be clarified, I'm having a problem with the camera issue at the moment, but I am here.
Right, okay, thank you, Councillor Jane Lucas. We'll obviously bear that in mind. You might have to speak up when we get to discussion, because obviously, unless...
No problem.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Declarations of interest? None. 5, confirm and sign the minutes of the previous meeting. Are somebody happy to propose that? Dale?
Happy to move those, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Dale.
I'll second that, Chair.
Okay, I'm certainly happy with them. So I will sign those at the end of the meeting. Okay. I'm not sure. I think we'll have to. I think I'm just clarifying now with our solicitor here. With Jane, we can't actually see you, so we don't know if you're there or not. So I'm afraid, unless the camera comes in, then you won't be able to vote.
But the first item won't have a vote, will it, Chair? The first item won't have a vote, will it?
No. Okay. But just to clarify.
So we can resolve it by the time we get the second item.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor. Right. We go.
Thank you. Any ideas how I get this resolved?
I honestly don't know. I say one of the officers is looking at it at the moment, but obviously there's nothing that I can actually do. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Item 6 now then. Statement of gambling policy and proposals for casinos. If Linda O'Gorman, the licensing officer, wants to come in just to tell us a little bit about this. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. The report's brought here today. It's come that time again, the 3-year period where we have to review the statement of gambling policy. The review needs to be in place and the policy itself needs to be in place by 31st of January 2025. So you'll note on 3.11 of the report is the proposed timescales to actually get this policy through. So today is the first draft of the policy. It's then proposed to go out for consultation between 1st of June to 31st of August, whereby if there's any tweaks to the policy or any changes that needs to be done or any recommendations, that will then be brought back to the Licensing and Regulatory Committee on the 17th of September 2024 for you to view the final draft and any further proposals you wish to put in or agree to the recommendations of changes at that time. It then has to be rubber stamped then at full council on the 24th of October, then a legal notice in the paper, then the publication, and then it can commence in 31st of January 2025. So even though it seems quite a way off, if you look at the timescales, it has to be sort of coming here today really before we sort of kick off that consultation period as per previous years. You'll also note in the report there is a section on regarding the casinos. We've always passed a resolution at full council that we wouldn't entertain the idea of casinos. At present, there isn't any available, but we still have to make that decision at full council so that if one did become available and by the Gambling Commission, that we would have that opportunity then whether we want to proceed and make an application for a casino or not. So you still have to pass that resolution, which is then placed within the gambling policy itself. So that's the reason why this report has been brought here today. There are a number of changes you note as well in 3.7 that the Gambling Commission are reviewing the codes of practice. However, they have said that this will not affect the policy itself, given the details that's in the policy, which was initially done by a template and then it's been added to as the years progress. And that's clarified in 3.7, so it shouldn't delay the process of legally getting the policy in place by 31st of January 2025, which is the end date basically that has to be in by. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thanks. And I can see the Chair now, you are on screen now and we can see you loud and clear with your reflective jacket on. We know they're there. Right, I'm glad this resolved. Comments now then. Number one, I've got Councillor Alistair Neil. Do you want to come in, please?
Thank you, Chair, and thanks for the introduction to the report. I really just wanted to ask if there are any other substantive changes to what must presumably be in Wales a relatively standard approach to this. I note the issue with casinos. Is there anything else that is substantively unique to the Monmouthshire policy that would not be consistent with others across Wales? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It is a consistent sort of policy, and we do work closely with our Gwent colleagues as well because of the nature of, when they have to do risk assessments for the locality for individual premises. So that's why we tend to work in Gwent. It then goes past to the All Wales group. So it is, quite widespread really with the policy itself. And the gambling template was initially done by the Gambling Commission as a recommendation for all local authorities. So it hasn't deviated much from that. There may be areas that we need to sort of check throughout this consultation period with regards to any legal tweaks when it's referring to other sort of legislation within the policy. So that's something we'll be looking more thoroughly during the 6-week period. And if there's any further recommendations that we want something unique for Monmouthshire, if anything comes in, it gets quite widespread, the consultation. It goes to all those currently licensed. It goes to sort of gambling groups and sort of, sort of like GamCare and that sort of avenue. So it's quite widely consulted upon.
Okay, thanks for that. We go on then to Councillor Christopher Edwards. Do you want to come in?
Thank you, Chair. I've got a couple of questions on the policy itself, but before that, obviously some of us remember the last time it went through full council and the policy was adopted. Out of curiosity, first of all, though, has there been any interest or applications since it was last adopted in regard to casinos? Or are we simply known as a no casino county, if you like?
Just that, it would be known as a no casino county, but we haven't had any interest or, saying why don't we have it within our area. It tends to be more focused on city areas, if anything, rather than sort of rural areas that they got the current sort of casinos in.
Okay, thanks for that. My main questions, in the policy 1.5 under consultation, it mentions under bodies representing residents in the county. Could you name an example of this? For instance, is it sort of groups relating to addiction? Is it schools, youth clubs? And my second question under 1.7, interested parties, I just wonder if you can clarify, there are 3 definitions of the interested party. Is a local school classified as an interested party under this criteria? And it mentions that I think the phrase close to the premises as well. I wondered what you would define as close. In other words, is it next door? Is it the same street? Is it around the corner? Is it the same town? Thank you.
Yeah, I'll try and answer both of the questions that you've raised there. We say close. There is, as with the Licensing Act, there's no vicinity test as such. I mean, if it can be proven there is going to be a detrimental effect if this was in the area, that's something that will be considered and then brought back to committee anyway. Is to give an idea that we wouldn't sort of look to have stuff that may be detrimental to, say, a school nearby or children, because we're not there to sort of promote gambling for children. So it's a number of elements that we would look at, and it would be brought to committee then with regards to the policy itself. With regards to the consultation, it is quite widespread. We sort of work amongst a number of local authorities to say, what sort of groups. So you could have gambling groups, or like I said, advisory when people got problem gambling. There could be associations for, like, say, the race course and various things like that. So it is quite widespread. You have councillors and local councillors, town councils. So we try to get the message out. Is on the website as well. So we try to get the message out as much as we can, and we sort of do a comms thing saying, it's your opportunity to look at the policy and make comment if you want to on it. So we try and get it as far as we can out there. And like I said, it also goes to those currently licensed as well, be it a small raffle holder in a local church, because that comes under the gambling remit, to the much larger scale like the race course or betting shops. So it's quite wide.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Can I ask people, I can see two people on screen with their hands up, but can we all use the chat hands up, because then it comes in sort of sequential order. Otherwise, I'm trying to pick up, on screen. We go next now then to Councillor Tony Eason.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your presentation. This comes back to the casino aspect. We are subject to Gwent Police as a county area of Gwent. Are there any casinos in the rest of Gwent, Caerphilly, Newport, for example? And in the recent past, we've had the question mark about on-street casino-type places, like one that we turned down for licensing, but was overturned, I understand, by the inspector. Do we see a trend do we see a trend for the need for the public, or the public at large, to want casino-type facilities?
We don't see a trend for wanting casinos. The nearest one is in fact Cardiff, which is by the bay, which is near the football ground. You've got a casino there. Like I said, it tends to be, you've got one in Swansea, I think it's Birmingham, but it depends on the scale. They're the small scale casinos. Then you've got the much larger ones, I think, which is Blackpool. I put in a nomination for that as well, but there's certainly none within rural areas.
So where do these small casino-type properties, like the one in Monmouth, fit into our scheme and policy? Because that went through eventually on the inspector's advice.
I think, are you referring to the adult gaming centres rather than casino? Casino is something, totally different. With the adult gaming, it was brought to committee. It was approved by a committee. We had objections at that time. So the application process was done correctly, and it was granted. So obviously it's something that is in place now, in order for we would constantly sort of visit that venue, and then if it causes problems again, it can be reviewed like any other premises, and brought back to committee if it's felt it's not run or managed properly. But at the moment, there are no major issues with regards to that venue.
Okay, thanks. We move now then to Councillor Simon Howarth. If you want to come in, please.
Chair, I was going to just move the document, but I see Councillor Watts wants to come in there, so I'll allow him there before I move it. Is that okay, Chair?
Yeah, that's fine, thanks. So we've got Councillor Ramon Watts. Do you want to come in?
Yeah, thank you, Simon. Sorry, I had my hand up not in the chat. I was just building on Councillor Edwards' questions, which I thought was quite good, actually. And I guess, as councillors, we're always kind of slightly frustrated that we don't necessarily get the data, and without the data, sometimes we feel we're not informed. I know Christopher's concerned because obviously it impacts significantly on his ward, with regard to issues around so he's been diligent, I think. So enough of the compliments. I guess I'm trying to build up on then whether or not the council officers felt that they had sufficient training with regarding the harms of gambling, and did they feel confident that they were doing all that they can to raise awareness and support people via access, so for example, groups that work with the NHS, mental health issues, people who have addiction really to gambling. Those are my concerns, because I don't, with respect, I haven't really, respect to the officers, I haven't heard any kind of information about our understanding of how much of an impact that gambling does have on our community, and whether or not there's any kind of clear support organisations. We say we sign people on the website, but really we've got no understanding about the overall impact that, say, whether it's a day at the races or whether it's someone who's effectively gone into, say, the bookkeepers 5 times a day and spending their entire wages, or whether it's online. And that worries me significantly. I'm not sure, forgive me for saying this, and I'm happy to be rebuffed by the officers, that we're doing enough to be to have a better understanding, and the understanding would be built around data coming back about what preventions, how many people have then effectively gone to then seek assistance from whatever organisation. Does that make sense, Chair?
Okay, yeah, well, I think so. I hand over to Linda O'Gorman, the licensing officer.
Yeah, well, I'll answer it in sort of stages. With regards to the officers, as you quite rightly, sort of pointed out, things change. Different mechanisms of gambling changes, something new comes on the market all the time, and it's advertised on television. There is a number of things on there. With regards to the online gambling, that is monitored by the Gambling Commission itself, all right, not local authorities. With regards to the officers' training, we have had in-depth training, we have refresher training, so we've every year, so we do the online courses with regards to what is anything new that's been brought in by the Gambling Commission, what we should be inspecting at venues. We look at risk assessment, so if there are unique risk assessment to that venue itself, how that venue is managing, if they got somebody who's coming in and clearly see they are problem gamblers. So there's a number of things that we do with regards to training as such, and then we are looking part of this policy review as well is that we have a local sort of Newport CAB that was ultimately in charge of sort of the element of problem gamblers where they can refer people to. But we are looking in this 6-week period now, we are going to be looking at a much wider element so that we can try and narrow it down, because we do recognise, like yourself, Councillor Watts, that, if people got problem gambling, they want to have local sort of help, not have to travel, sort of have something that they can sort of help them with. So there's a number of avenues we'll be looking at now as part of this review of this policy as well, what extra information can be given to venues itself. I think David wants to mention something as well, actually, sorry.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Watts. I think this comes up on occasion in terms of that wider health and well-being. Certainly in terms of keeping members informed, we did advise the number of bookies, etc., across the patch when the fees report came forward recently. Some members are cited on that. But in terms of obviously not fully trained on mental health and other issues, but we rely on our colleagues at Aneurin Bevan, so it needs to come the other way as well. So obviously we deal with premises and how they try and control as best they can, at premises level. If we thought it was a particular issue, and we do know those particular booking places on the high streets, then we would potentially refer it through to safeguarding. We have a safeguarding team, as you know, within social care. And obviously if Aneurin Bevan said we seem to have a lot of incidents of mental health relating to gambling, then we would liaise with our colleagues in Aneurin Bevan, who are responsible for health, clearly, to see what potentially we could do, as we would potentially with obesity. So we can't obviously be obesity experts, to use that example. So we would then say, look, we've got an issue with takeaways. Our role is with the premises. So similarly, along the lines that you described, if there were issues that were flagged up in terms of mental health referring to gambling, then clearly we'd respond to that request that would be coming from our health colleagues at the Health Board or Public Health Wales. So we do what we can, certainly. Just to assure members, we do spend an awful lot of time with the race course, those high street betting shops, the adult gaming centres, the place of mega services, so they certainly get proactive visits. We do work with them. We do ask those key questions as to what you do with someone who regularly turns up, in terms of often they will self-ban themselves because they realise they've got issues themselves. But when we get into the health consequences, we're obviously not trained in finding examples of mental health, but we'd respond to any issues that would come our way, if that makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. If I may, Chair, my final supplementary is, have we got any evidence where we've actually communicated, or the Health Board Mental Health Services have communicated with us and had any dialogue in the last 24 months? Either way, so if there's been any kind of communication reciprocated involved in any specific concerns, because if we haven't, then I'd be concerned about it. And if there is it possible at some future point for, because we have to think we have a corporate responsibility, the public's well-being, to then look at potentially examples of you know, where things have effectively gone wrong initially, and then they've been rectified. So there's some form of, if you like, effectively salvation from that problem.
Dave, do you want to come in on this, or Linda?
Yeah, we do work closely. We have a colleague from Public Health. Even though they're not a consultee like the Licensing Act, we have a Gwent licensing group as well. And she works closely with us on the makeup of this policy itself. So any issues that's raised and any avenues that's new that she can help us with, then we would actually sort of like signpost people as well on that. But we do work closely on a regular basis with a colleague from Public Health with regards to gambling as well.
So if we're clear, there is no kind of definitive evidence as it stands, but you could probably go back and find it, right?
We could, yeah, because we work closely.
All right,
yeah.
Thank you, Chair. All right.
Okay, thanks. We'll go back now then to Councillor Simon Howarth. You're on mute, Simon. We can't hear you.
May I move, Chair, that we take the document to its 6-week consultation and then come back to full council and let full council then move to adopt the amendment to this policy, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Is a seconder for that proposal? Councillor Tony Eason has indicated, and Chris Edwards. So, okay, yeah, all happy to move. So that goes to consultation, and then we'll go to full council, because obviously it is an important document. It does, as Councillor Watts has pointed out and other people, it does have a big effect on people's lives, and sometimes an incredibly negative effect in terms of gambling addiction. So, you know, it is an important document. So that's moved, and that'll go to consultation, come back to full council in due course. Thanks. Diolch yn fawr. Okay, we now move to item 7, exclusion of the press and public, because obviously this is a confidential issue. So I'll wait now for Richard Williams, the MCC officer, to switch off the live stream.